The saddest part of loyalty isn't always betrayal. Sometimes it's simpler than that, colder than that. It's realizing they knew. They saw what you were doing. They saw how hard you were trying. They saw how many times you stayed quiet just to keep the peace. How many times you swallowed your pride. How many times you showed up for them even when you were falling apart yourself. And they just didn't care. That's the part that stays with you. Not the argument, not the ending, not even the disrespect. It's the moment you finally understand that your loyalty meant something to you. But to them, it was just convenient. A lot of people know that feeling. You answer the phone every time they call, but when your world starts caving in, they suddenly become hard to reach. You defend them when other people talk bad about them, but the second your name gets dragged into something, they stand there like they barely know you. You keep forgiving, keep understanding, keep making excuses for their behavior because you tell yourself, maybe they're just going through something, maybe they're stressed, maybe they didn't mean it like that. And for a while, that lie feels kinder than the truth, because the truth is hard. The truth is, some people are not confused. They're not overwhelmed. They're not unaware. They're just used to receiving what they never planned to return. That kind of realization changes you. I think a lot of us grow up believing loyalty works like a mirror. You give it, and eventually it comes back. You stay solid for people, and when your turn comes, they'll be solid for you. That sounds fair. That sounds human. But life doesn't always work like that. Some people don't read loyalty as love. They read it as weakness. They see your patience and think you'll always be there. They see your forgiveness and assume there are no consequences. They see your consistency and start treating it like background noise. That's why people can lose good hearts so easily. Not because good hearts disappear, but because after enough disappointment, they get quieter. They become harder to reach, more careful, less open. Not because they stopped caring, but because they finally learned caring too much in the wrong place can cost you your peace. And that lesson usually doesn't arrive in some dramatic movie scene. It shows up in regular life. It shows up when you're the one checking in again. When you're the one sending the long message trying to fix things. When you're the one replaying conversations at 2 a.m. Wondering if maybe you asked for too much by expecting basic honesty. It shows up when someone you would have carried on your back can't even give you 5 minutes of real attention when you're breaking inside. That kind of pain is strange because it makes you question yourself. You start wondering if you were too available, too understanding, too forgiving, too loyal. And for a little while, you almost feel embarrassed for having a real heart in a world that rewards performance more than sincerity. But let me say something that matters. Being loyal was never your shame. Loyalty is not the thing that broke you. Giving it to people who treated it like free rent in your soul, that's what hurt you. There's a difference. Because loyalty, real loyalty, is rare. It means you know how to stay. It means you know how to carry people without making a speech about it. It means you know how to love in a world full of half-effort and convenient emotions. That is not weakness. That is depth. The problem is, depth in the wrong room feels like drowning. And some of you know exactly what that feels like. You can be the strongest person in the room and still get destroyed by disappointment. Especially when it comes from people you never expected to move funny. Especially when it comes from someone you protected in conversations they were never even present for, especially when it comes from someone who looked you in the face, accepted your loyalty, benefited from your presence, leaned on your heart, and still treated you like you were easy to replace. That does something to a person. It makes you colder, yes. But more than that, it makes you tired, not sleepy. Soul tired. Tired of always being the mature one. Tired of always understanding people who never try to understand you. Tired of carrying the emotional weight in relationships that are supposed to be mutual. Tired of pretending it doesn't hurt just because you've learned how to hide it better. And there comes a point where you stop asking, why didn't they care? Because deep down, you already know they didn't care because they were never connected to your loyalty the way you were. You were giving from the heart. They were receiving from habit. That's why some people can lose you and sleep just fine. Not because you meant nothing, but because they never held what you gave with the same hands you offered it in. That truth is brutal, but weirdly, it can also set you free. Because once you stop chasing understanding from people committed to misunderstanding you, your energy starts coming back, slowly, not all at once, but enough for you to breathe again. You stop explaining yourself so much. You stop begging people to see what should have been obvious. You stop trying to prove your value to people who only recognize value when it's gone. You stop trying to win over hearts that are only loyal to convenience. And that's when your life begins to change. Not in some loud, cinematic way, in quiet ways. You pause before replying. You notice who only speaks to you when they need something. You stop calling people misunderstood when they've had 100 chances to understand. You stop confusing history with loyalty. You stop confusing attachment with love. You stop confusing your pain with a reason to stay. That last one is important. A lot of people stay because of how much they've already endured. They think, I've already given years. I've already forgiven so much. I've already invested too much of myself to walk away now. But suffering for a long time does not make a thing right. It just makes it familiar. And familiar pain can be dangerous because it starts to feel like home. You learn the moods. You learn the excuses. You learn how to survive in the environment. You become so adjusted to being undervalued that peace starts feeling suspicious. That's why leaving certain people isn't just about distance. It's about rewiring what you think love is supposed to feel like. Because love should not constantly make you question your worth. Loyalty should not require you to abandon yourself. Care should not feel one-sided all the time. And if every relationship in your life keeps teaching you to shrink, stay quiet, and tolerate crumbs, then at some point, you have to stop calling that loyalty. That's self-betrayal. And that's a hard sentence to hear when you've built your identity around being the one who stays, the one who doesn't give up, the one who keeps the bond together, the one who understands, the one who forgives. But there's another version of strength people don't talk about enough. The strength to see the truth without decorating it. The strength to say, this hurts, and it still isn't healthy. The strength to accept that somebody can be important to you and still be wrong for your peace. The strength to stop offering loyalty to people who only like access. That kind of strength is quieter. No applause, no dramatic moment. Just a private decision that your heart deserves better than being treated like a refill station for selfish people. And once you make that decision, something shifts. You stop trying to be chosen by those who only notice you when you're useful. You stop wasting your softness on people addicted to taking. You stop performing emotional labor for those who call it too much. The second you need support back, you begin protecting your energy without hating people. That's maturity, because not everybody who hurt you is evil. Some are just empty. Some are selfish. Some are emotionally lazy. Some have spent their whole lives being loved by people who expected nothing in return. So they never learned the weight of receiving something real. That doesn't excuse what they did, but it explains why you need boundaries, not fantasies. You can't heal by waiting for someone with no depth to suddenly become deep enough to hold your heart properly. You can't keep standing in the same fire and call it hope. At some point, hope becomes another name for delay. And delay is expensive. It steals years, confidence, sleep, identity. You start becoming someone you don't recognize. More anxious, more reactive, more doubtful. Not because that's who you are, but because being repeatedly uncared for distorts the way you see yourself. That's what people don't talk about enough. Being around the wrong people long enough can make you forget your original shape. You start dimming your standards, lowering your voice, asking for less, expecting less, pretending less would be enough. Until one day you wake up and realize the person abandoning you most consistently has been you. That realization is ugly, but it's also powerful, because now the responsibility comes back into your hands. Not for what they did, that's on them, but for what you do next. Do you keep pouring into people because you're afraid to be alone with yourself? Do you keep calling your wounds loyalty because starting over feels humiliating? Do you keep knocking on doors that have already taught you what living outside them feels like? Or do you finally say, enough? Enough translating disrespect into, they're just having a hard time. Enough calling neglect a rough phase. Enough acting like the bare minimum is meaningful just because you've been starved for consistency. That word, enough, can save a life. Because some endings don't happen when the relationship ends. They happen the moment you stop lying to yourself about what it is. And after that, healing starts looking different. Healing isn't becoming cold and calling it power. It isn't punishing every new person for what old people did. It isn't pretending you never cared. Healing is being honest. Yes, that hurt me. Yes, I stayed too long. Yes, I gave loyalty to people who didn't deserve access to that side of me. And yes, I'm going to learn from it without turning into the very thing that wounded me. That matters, because the world has enough damaged people trying to survive by becoming numb. What it needs more of is aware people. People who still have depth, but now have boundaries. People who still know how to love, but not at the cost of themselves. People who still believe in loyalty, but now understand it should be earned, matched, and protected. You don't have to become cruel to become wise. You just have to stop confusing being needed with being valued. Those are not the same thing. A lot of people need what you provide. Very few are capable of valuing who you are. And once you understand that, you stop being flattered by attention. You start paying attention to effort, consistency, reciprocity, presence, the little things. Who checks on you when there's nothing to gain? Who listens when your voice gets quiet? Who notices your absence, not just your usefulness? Who protects your name when you're not in the room? Who gives, not just receives? That's where real loyalty lives. Not in big speeches, not in empty promises, not in people who only feel your worth after you leave. Real loyalty feels steady, safe, mutual. It doesn't leave you constantly explaining your pain to someone who caused it. It doesn't make you beg for basic care. It doesn't make you feel lonely in company. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside all this disappointment. Not everyone deserves the version of you that would have done anything for them. That version is sacred. It should not be handed out just because someone asked nicely, or cried at the right moment, or had history with you, or made you feel wanted for a season. History is not character. Chemistry is not care. And being chosen temporarily is not the same as being valued deeply. You learn that the hard way sometimes. Most people do. But if you learn it properly, you stop seeing your past only as pain. You start seeing it as training. Now you know what neglect feels like. Now you know what one-sided loyalty sounds like. Now you know how easy it is to disappear inside relationships where your heart is appreciated only when it's serving somebody else. So next time, you'll notice sooner, not because you're cynical, because you're awake. And being awake changes everything. You stop waiting for closure from people who were careless with your heart. You stop turning their indifference into a story about your worth. You stop shrinking your standards just to avoid the grief of letting go. You let the grief come. You sit with it. You respect it. Because losing people you were loyal to hurts, even when walking away is right. That pain is real. It deserves honesty. But pain is not always a sign you made the wrong decision. Sometimes it's just proof that you finally chose truth over attachment. And truth has a sharp edge at first. It cuts the fantasy. It cuts the excuses. It cuts the version of the story where your loyalty was eventually going to teach them how to care. No. Some people only learn through loss, and some never learn at all. That is not your burden anymore. Your burden now is simpler. Protect your peace. Respect your heart. Pay attention to what people do with the access you give them. And when someone shows you, clearly, calmly, repeatedly, that your loyalty is just a convenience to them, believe that. Don't wait for a bigger betrayal just because the current pain still looks manageable. Don't wait until your self-respect is hanging by a thread. Don't keep loving people in ways that require you to disappear. You are not made to be emotionally useful and spiritually ignored. You are not made to be the safe place for people who would never become one for you. You are not made to stay bleeding just because you're good at surviving pain. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is stop giving your heart to those who never learned how to hold it. And yeah, that lesson is sad, because part of you always wanted it to be different. Part of you wanted them to wake up one day and finally understand what they had. Part of you wanted your consistency to matter, your silence to be noticed, your love to be recognized without needing to scream for it. But they didn't care. That's the truth. And strange as it sounds, the moment you really accept that, the moment you stop fighting that truth, is the moment your life gets quieter inside. Not perfect, not painless, just quieter. Because now you know. And knowing lets you move differently, more careful, more honest, more respectful of your own soul. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to curse the whole world. You don't have to turn your heart into stone. Just stop offering sacred things to casual people. That's enough. That's wisdom. And maybe that's where peace starts.